Yo, Ron Murray, Mr. High School Holler, Glizz out, you did.
Keep everything the same. Natural. Yeah, I think you turn out to the pass down.
Ron Murray coming to you live from First Baptist Academy, another episode of my Trainer Spotlight. And with me, none other, train like a pro, always open, David Robinson. Coach D-Rob, thanks for allowing me out.
Man, thanks for having me.
All right, Coach, so let's go ahead and get right to it. We know we just came from a great, really pro session, even though you did have a lot of college guys. Quentin Johnson from the Los Angeles Chargers was out there. Juwan Jennings, correct,
yep,
from the San Francisco 49ers. L.J. Lawrence Arnold from DeSoto. Like, the list goes on. And, you know, big shout out to you for just creating that clientele. So just talk about how Train Like a Pro and how you got started in training.
Well, yeah, I played college football at the University of Oklahoma. I was there from 02 to 06. And when I got done playing receiver, the school that I went to, Kimball High School, I saw there was a need for the off-season program. You know what I mean? They didn't have an off-season program, so I was going up there, helping the kids out after school, just doing it, you know, for free. Mm-hmm. And they started telling their friends about it, you know, around the area from other schools. Me and my business partner at the time, Clay Mack.
Clay Mack, shout out Clay Mack.
Yeah, who does DBs.
Mm-hmm.
And we were having sessions at Kimball on the weekends, man. We started off with maybe like 2 or 3 receivers. Clay Mack had like maybe 1 or 2 DBs. And then we looked up maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, after the kids started telling their friends about us holding sessions up there on the weekends. It was about like 50, 70 kids to 60 kids out there. Mm. Yeah, so we had to turn this thing into a business. And this was back in 05. Yeah, so that's how I got started, you know, and I had to turn it into a business.
All right, so let me ask you about that. Of course, you're in Oklahoma. You have the career that you had up there. Just talk about that time and when you knew that, you know, it was time to transition into training.
Yeah, so I had a little stint, you know, in the league, had a little tryout with the Bills or whatnot, and then I went up to Canada in the CFL. And when I broke my ankle, I lost my speed a little bit, you know, and at my size, that's really crucial.
Yeah.
So I started, you know, training wideouts. My mom was on me big about you need to start your own training company at the time, you know, when you're still 1 foot in, 1 foot out, still trying to play ball.
Right.
You're really not listening to that, you know. So I finally listened to what she was saying and went full force with it, man. And I thank her to this day because she was the one that kept pushing me. Like, coach, you need to be a coach. You need to be trained. Like, you're really good at communicating with people. So that's what I started doing.
All right, that's what I'm about to ask you next because, of course, training and coaching, it really is teaching. When did you realize that you had really that calling to do that?
My receiver coach in college, the name was Daryl Wyatt at the University of Oklahoma. And he used to see how I used to handle the young receivers, like the Malcolm Kelly at TCU.
Shout out Malcolm Kelly.
You know,
yeah.
So when he came to Oklahoma, he was younger than me. So I used to help Malcolm out, Joaquin Iglesias, a few guys with, you know, certain techniques and the routes that, you know, that I would do the way I would do it. And Coach Wyatt pulled me into the office one day and was like, man, you ever thought about coaching when you're done? And I'm like, nah, I ain't never thought about it. He was like, man, I think you'll make a really good coach. And so he just planted that seed in my ear while I was a player.
Yeah.
You know, and when someone's telling you that while you're a player, you're like, dang, I wonder why he told me that, you know. But he saw that I could communicate and get the message across to guys as far as, you know, getting the best out of them.
All right, one thing that's kind of big right now is mental health. And I think a lot of times when players do play at that high level and even just seeing that the playing career might be over, you know, there's that transition. And you did talk about, you know, your mom. How do you just keep yourself, you know, ahead of things, especially as you were starting this new business and you're seeing that, you know, the fruits of your labor paying off?
Yeah, as far as the mental, I know I can witness it from a player, you know, when things not going your way.
Yeah.
And your dream doesn't pan out or your career doesn't last as long as you would expect it to,
right?
You can kind of shut down on yourself, you know. And one thing that I encourage every athlete when they're going through that transition from playing football your whole life to not doing it is staying close around it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Helping the next kid out, getting into coaching, getting into 707, going to coaches conventions, just to keep yourself around what you've been doing all your life. You know what I mean? Because it's hard to go from sticking that foot in the ground, lifting weights, running, working out your whole life, to sitting behind a desk.
That's true.
Working for some. You're not used to doing that. That's not what you. That's not how you're wired. You know. So I advise a lot of them to stay close to what you've been doing once you're done playing. That'll keep you alive, keep you better for your mental health.
All right. Also, speaking about that, because one of the things you did say, going to Kimball, unpaid, helping out, giving back to the community. When you did start to see things growing, when did you realize that, always open, train like a pro? Because to me, it's like you're a household name when it comes to training. When did you see those things start changing from, coming after school, helping the kids, to now you have all pros, you're going to have Hall of Famers that done trained with you and things of that nature?
Well, yeah, it's crazy because when I first started doing it, like I was just doing it, I always say it's God's work. I was just doing it because I had a passion for it and I know there was a need for it. I wasn't doing it to become a household name. I wasn't doing it to become rich or famous or be in newspapers. I was just doing it because I knew that I didn't have that like coming up. I had to learn kind of on my own, or other guys, or being around my cousins, Casey Printers.
Shout out Casey Printers,
So I used to have to learn, just picking up the tricks of the trade through him.
Yeah.
So once I saw the blueprint, because he played 10 years in the league, I kind of knew what it took and how to work and things of that nature. And just to see the principles and things that he taught me, and I've given it back to these kids, it's crazy. It's gratifying.
So with that, how do you train? Is it a different level of training when it comes to, NFL wide receiver, college wide receiver, high school, or is it just all the same plane, or how do you go about that with your process of training players?
Yeah, to me, one thing that I think that really separates me is everything is the same. Okay. So if I got a 10, 11-year-old out there, I'm going to hold him to the same standard as a Jawan Jennings or Jakeem Grant or Emmanuel Sanders. I don't dummy anything down. I don't dummy the drills down. The way the coaching points are, how firm I am coaching, I like to install those habits in everybody. Because the receivers, we're known as prima donnas. You know what I mean? We don't really like being coached. If we like it to look a certain way, and that's not how I train my wideouts. I kind of train them to have a tough mental mindset, and just to train kind of like a linebacker or a defensive line, being hungry, being a gorilla in your routes. Yeah. Because when you have that type of mindset as a receiver, it puts fear in the defensive back's heart. Knowing how tough you are, knowing if they have you covered or whatnot, he's still not going to back down. He's still going to be here, strong mentally. So DBs don't like that when they can't affect us mentally.
So, of course, when you started growing your clientele, because what I noticed out there is that everybody trained. Like, it seemed like there was no ego. It was just there in a time for opportunity to get work. When you get clients, especially at the NFL level, do you have to kind of gauge that, especially because you did not have time like that in the NFL, but they may have, so they may bring something. So do you just have to, be careful with that when you bring in different clients?
Well, when you fill them out, like for the first session or so, when you're first meeting somebody new. But for the most part, I think that's why a lot of them come to me, because I don't care if you're, the highest paid receiver in the NFL or if you're a practice squad receiver in the NFL. I hold them all to a high standard. The James Prochez, he's been with me since, 8th, 9th grade. Shout out to James, he just signed with the Tennessee Titans today.
Congratulations to him.
So when he'll tell you, like, you dropping balls, you slipping, I'm going to take this NFL receiver, look, man, it's a fence down there, go hit that fence. Like, I need you to get your mind right.
Hey, when they hit that line today, they went and hit that line today. You definitely did that.
Yeah, so I do the same thing with the middle school.
Yeah.
Like, you drop a ball, you slipping and falling, or if I'm trying to break a certain habit, I get it out of you, I'm going to make you go hit the fence, up, downs, push up, like I'm going to hold you to a standard. And they know I don't dummy anything down to them.
All right, so of course, along with that, another question I have for you is that your resume is a bit different from some other people, and I'm asking, all the trainers this because this is something that regularly comes up. Where do you think the friction comes from sometime when it's the high school coaches and then it's necessarily the trainers and things of that issue?
Well, I think the friction comes from when trainers want to take all of the credit, from the high school. And not being transparent and communicating with the high school coaches when they're training a particular kid from that high school, and a lot of times now, the way the recruiting is going, they're not even going to the high schools anymore. They're going through the trainers, So I think some high schools may feel a certain way when kids are training with trainers and the school is not getting the love or the respect for putting the kid out there. So I think that's where the friction comes, the trainer not having a good relationship with the high school coach. The majority of the kids that I train from around the Metroplex, I have really good relationships with their head coaches in school and coaches from that school. So they push their kids to come out here to train because they know I'm not going to be trying to recruit them or get them to go to different schools or anything of that nature. And I make it a point to don't be out here more than you are with your high school. Like, make sure if your high school is having summer workouts or something like that, you need to be with them. Don't let it interfere with 7-on-7 for other teams. Like, be with your high school, running track with your high school. I really encourage that.
All right, so what would you tell people to look for when they are looking for a trainer, whether it be you or whether it be someone else? Because one thing I believe is that just because you played in the NFL, that doesn't mean you know how to train somebody. Just because you got a lot of social media followers. And sometimes, you know, one thing I say, if you want to hustle somebody, you could be a trainer, you could be a DJ, or you can be a photographer. It seems like people can just put on those hats and do those things. Yeah. But what tips would you tell people just to be careful for, especially the way, like, the Dallas-Fort Worth area has really become a sports mecca in this point. So what would you tell people just to watch out for when they're investing in a trainer?
Well, I would tell them, you know, just to do their research on the coach or a particular trainer that they're, you know, working with. You want to look out for, you know, do they have really good relationships around the community? Do they have really good relationships in the college coaching world? And like the kids that they've taken, how many kids have they taken, you know, from the ground up? Not kids that already have offers already.
Great point, yes.
You know what I mean? And they're training a lot of them. How many kids have you taken from 9, 10, 11 years old, 12 years old, and been with them their whole way through and built them up? Scholarship offers, NFL. That's how I would, you know, gauge if I'm going to pick a trainer or not. You know what I mean? If they've been doing it for a while, taking a baby Bambi to a reindeer.
Great point.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they're consistently known for doing that, then that might be the person that you need to work with.
All right, so, of course, the transfer portal, now you have the new JUCO rule where they're not losing any eligibility. It seems like kids have to come in and be ready to play, you know, plug and play. So how important is outside training? And for you, do you have to kind of dumb it down a little bit because now you may have a kid that says, hey, I'm trying to play right now, so you may not have to, or you may not be able to put in as much time? Do you get what I'm saying? Like, just your thoughts about that.
Well, it's very important if you're trying to play early as a true freshman to have an elite coach, elite pitching coach, receiver coach, whatever sport it is you're playing, and whatever school that's looking at you're committing to, that coach having a strong relationship with the coach or trainer that's coaching you. You know what I mean? Because they can give you routes or plays that they actually run in their system and that you can be working with the kid on before he even gets to the school in the spring. Prime example, Decorian Moore.
Shout out Decorian Moore.
Yep, he's the #1 receiver in the country for 2025. Decorian was out here since like 7th grade, but when he decided to go to Oregon, me and his receiver coach, we've been knowing each other for over 10 years.
Relationships.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when it comes time to the things that he needs to work on and to help enhance his game, me and his receiver coach stayed on the phone a lot on things that he wanted him to clean up. Same way with Brian Wesco. At Clemson.
Shout out Brian Wesco, yeah.
Yeah, his receiver coach, we got a really strong relationship. He actually came down to Dallas about a month or so ago to sit in and watch me work out for a few days. And just to pick up, you know, little tidbits on how to teach certain things so he can still be on the same accord when he goes back to Clemson teaching Wesco, you know what I mean? So, and the other receivers. So it's about having that relationship, man, really good relationship, and the receiver coach is respecting your work and what you do. And so I think it's very imperative if you're trying to play a true freshman to have an elite receiver coach or somebody that, you know, has a good relationship with the school that you're going to.
Coach D-Rob, I appreciate you so much. Give everyone your information and where they can contact you at.
Yeah, you can go to my website, drobalwaysopen.com. My Instagram is drobalwaysopen. And my Twitter is drobalwaysopen.
Hey, right there.
Train like a pro.
Hey, train like a pro. Ron Murray, Trainer Spotlight, the biggest, Coach D-Rob. I appreciate you.
Man, appreciate you.
Yes, sir.